ESPN's NCAA basketball, a Tuesday night triple-header. We start at Assembly Hall in Bloomington, Indiana, as the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame face the Indiana Hoosiers. Welcome once again to NCAA basketball here on ESPN. Indiana coming fresh off their victory against #1 Kentucky, coming off a very big double-digit victory. Now will host Notre Dame. That's game number 1. Game number 2, the Hoosiers have Damon Bailey set to go against Notre Dame.
Assembly Hall as the defending champions of the Big Ten Conference, ranked number 12 in the nation, the Indiana Hoosiers, take on the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Hi, everybody. I'm Joel Myers alongside Clark Kellogg, and welcome to Bloomington, Indiana. A super Saturday for the Indiana Hoosiers. Clark, they knock off the #1 team in the nation at the time, the Kentucky Wildcats. Damon Bailey has a phenomenal contest, 29 points, just a couple off his career high. And Alan Henderson, their super power forward, really came through during crunch time.
He really did. He's had 2 double-doubles in the first 2 games for the Hoosiers. And when he's aggressive inside, he gives them an added dimension. Here he works in the paint off of a nice feed and flushes it home, and then working the offensive glass here. When he can be that aggressive, he's a handful.
Now, as much as the Hoosiers need Henderson's output at the offensive end, his primary role tonight is going to be that of a defensive stopper. He's got to try to slow down Monty Williams.
And Monty Williams has had it going on of late, 33 points a game. His strong suit, versatility. Alan Henderson will have both hands full tonight.
Big matchup for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, taking on the number 12 team in the nation, the Indiana Hoosiers. We go into the locker room, last-minute preparation for head coach John McLeod and his Fighting Irish. We'll be right back to Bloomington with the starting lineups.
The big fish. This is the big fish. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Let's go.
Play is brought to you by Seiko, the future of time.
Attendance at Assembly Hall. The capacity is 17,357. You won't ever find an empty seat in this building ever since it opened in 1972. Joel Myers, Clark Kellogg in Bloomington. The starting lineup for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. We look at Billy Taylor. He has the most experience among the returners for John McLeod, the head coach. Now they need more offense from Billy Taylor, as John McLeod in his 3rd season at Notre Dame, 29-34. Over the first 2, only 9-18 last season. And the starting lineup for the Indiana Hoosiers. He's a smoothie, Brian Evans. Great court sense. You may have seen his play on Saturday against the Kentucky Wildcats. He knows where everyone is on the floor at all times. Great touch passes constantly from Evans. The general in his 23rd year at Indiana. He's taken them to 3 NCAA championships and a record 11 Big Ten titles. And one of the keys for the Fighting Irish, Clark, of Notre Dame be the play of their guard, Ryan Hoover.
I think so. He's a guy that can really stroke the basketball, but needs a little help getting his shots. You see what he did in game 1 against Valparaiso, has struggled in his last 2.
Well, the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame going with the Twin Towers, the identical twins, John and Joe Ross. Trying to be a little more physical inside as Monty Williams got caught in the air, and Bailey leads a 3-on-1. Henderson the finisher. And the foul on Ryan Hoover. The last thing the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame can afford is to let this crowd get into it and have to play catch-up.
Nice look away by Bailey to Henderson. Mark it up and he'll get 1. Nothing wrong with the leg there. There was some talk about him dragging it a little bit as we watched practice yesterday and also in Saturday's game. But off to a quick start. Just what the Irish did not want to happen. Some reason for this crowd to get into the game right away.
Hoover is being hounded out front by Steve Hart, a very quick freshman guard.
Well, I would think that's what Monty Williams has to do. Make Henderson work defensively. Put it on the floor and try to beat him to the cup.
He picks up the first foul on Alan Henderson. He's a junior from Indianapolis, averaged 11 a game last season, averaging 15 a game over the first 2 so far this year. So the Irish have it in the offensive end. tempo, real key for Notre Dame early. Williams inside, and they'll call the walk. Ed Hightower calling the travel, the outside official. Hightower, Licklider, and Grissom, the 3 officials.
Good pressure on the basketball by Evans, and look at Henderson getting back. Now look at this. Bailey, Henderson, and Lindemann all surrounding the ball in the paint, forcing the walk.
Steve Hart blocked by Joe Ross. And now they'll call the foul on Ross after the great play defensively. They'll call the foul as he tried to get the ball away from Todd Lindemann.
Good recovery here as Hart beats Taylor to the baseline. Good help. Ross unable to come up with it, and then Lindemann right place, right time, and there you see the reach in. That's what happens, though, when the defense is broken down by dribble penetration. Often there are more lanes to the offensive glass. Lindemann has 7 offensive rebounds on Saturday against Kentucky.
They're hoping this young man, who redshirted last year after playing in 20 games but only saw 48 minutes of playing time 2 years ago, is going to develop into more of an offensive threat for Indiana. He gets 1 of 2, and the Hoosiers lead it 4-0 early.
The Irish haven't had a good look at the hoop yet. They've got to be patient, try to move the ball 4 or 5 passes, and get a good shot for a good shooter.
Great penetration pass by Hoover, and Ross couldn't collect it. Batted away, trying to force it into Monty Williams. The break for Evans. Evans for 3. They fell asleep at the defensive end. Notre Dame needs a timeout, and they take one. All Indiana so far. A shutout so far for the Hoosiers. Not quite 2 minutes into the contest. Indiana Hoosiers to start the contest, and Indiana always looking for the break when it's there, Clark.
Well, here you see it developing. Allen and Henderson with a strong board and a nice push of the ball up ahead to Brian Evans on the left wing. Now Evans is going to pick up his bounce right there. And it seems like there's an Irish player that could defend him, Ross or Billy Taylor, but they decided to leave him, and he had all time to clean the gun and then pull the trigger.
The Irish out of the timeout go to a much quicker lineup. The young man with the ball right now, Admore White, a freshman from Lauderdale Lakes, Florida, gets it from Monty Williams. He's their key player down low. Now the break for Hart. Damon Bailey. And Evans for another 3. Hoover hit by Hart. No foul call. Stripped away by Hart. Admore White after it, and Evans has it. Nothing going right for Notre Dame right now. 17:45 left in the first half. Indiana leading 7-0, and a foul away from the ball on Lindemann. Bouncing off Joe Ross down low.
Actually, I think Lindemann got caught for a moving screen. You know, Indiana wants to keep constant motion and do a lot of screening with their big guys, and Lindemann whistled for the offensive foul there. Notre Dame needs to get some type of dribble penetration. IU doing a nice job of pressuring the ball on the perimeter. So you've got to put the ball on the floor and get into the teeth of the defense to create a decent look.
Now they're going to call a pick and a foul on the pick attempt on Joe Ross as he tried to get Lindemann so Monty Williams could slide down the baseline. So 1 each way, and now Indiana gets it back. 5 turnovers already for Notre Dame.
I think they've only gotten 1 good look at a shot.
That was a Monty Williams shot on the baseline where he couldn't really get it from about 8-10 feet away. Allen Henderson. Joe Ross with the rebound as Admore White had the break. He goes to John Ross. And it's out of bounds. Last touch by Henderson. It'll stay in the offensive end for the Fighting Irish. Well, the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame could not afford to get up and down the floor in a quick tempo, open floor game with the Indiana Hoosiers. Let's not forget the Indiana Hoosiers have led the Big Ten in scoring in each of the last 3 seasons. So John McLeod really wanted to dictate the tempo tonight.
I think so. Anytime you have an opportunity to run, you certainly want to do that. But in your half-court set, really important to move the defense with player movement and ball movement.
Carl Cozen just came in. He turned it over. Sloppy now as Henderson is fouled by another one who just came in, Matt Gotch, a freshman from Friendswood, Texas. And Henderson to the line to shoot 2.
Indiana playing extremely aggressive at the defensive end. Notre Dame, on the other hand, hasn't responded to that. They've been a little soft with the ball, a little careless. You've got to really be strong and make basketball plays against a team that's going to put pressure on you out on the perimeter.
You see that right knee brace for Alan Henderson. He suffered ligament damage in that knee midway through the month of February last season, missing most of the rest of the season. He tried to come back, which was limping badly. And now he's got the 2 free throws. 9-0 Indiana. 3 minutes and 20 seconds of the game. Notre Dame still looking for their first points. Cozen misses his first attempt. It is ugly early for the Irish. Nice little give and go. Lindemann blocked by Gotch. And Lindemann will go to the line to shoot 2. Now John McLeod, in his 3rd season as the Irish head coach, brings in now Marcus Hughes, another freshman. So relying on the freshman early. Hughes out of Detroit. There's Todd Lindemann, a 7-footer. Goes to the line for Indiana. 10 unanswered points to start the contest for Bob Knight's Hoosiers. Lindemann, a sophomore from Channing, Michigan. Wasn't recruited by the Wolverines. In fact, Western Michigan wanted him as much as Indiana. Easy choice for Lindemann. Stays at a 10-point lead for Indiana. Trying to spot up Monty Williams for the 3. And finally, the Irish, exactly 4 minutes into the game, are on the board. Monty Williams, who averages over the first 3, 33 a game, has their first. And now Lindemann is called for the foul. Trying to shove Hughes out of the way.
See, this is good action. This is reacting to the defense. See, Henderson gets a nice bump from Hughes, and then Monty Williams, instead of just going all the way to the basket, just kind of fades off that screen to get himself a nice open look at the hoop behind the arc.
Admore White now is working the point instead of Ryan Hoover, so Hoover freed up to be the shooting guard now. There's White, the freshman. Tough break. But the Irish get it back.
They've got numbers here.
Good. No look by Hoover. Williams. Beautiful touch on the follow away by Monty Williams. He's a senior from Forest Heights, Maryland. Went to Potomac High School. And now it's a 5-point deficit. He's got all 5, Monty Williams.
Both teams play all man-to-man. You won't see any zones tonight. Unless, of course, you see some kind of full-court pressure, but man-to-man both ways.
Acrobatic move by Steve Hart. It comes out to Evans. One of the more underrated players in the Big Ten, Brian Evans, a sophomore from Terre Haute, Indiana, with the basket. It's now a 7-point advantage for the Hoosiers.
Evans really has a sweet stroke, knows how to get open.
And creates the jump ball situation as Monty Williams tried to penetrate.
Here you see Monty Williams just cutting into the lane. See, good active hands there by Evans. And he forces the jump ball situation, well, the held ball situation.
Possession arrow gives it to the Hoosiers. Indiana up by 7.
Excuse me, Joel, but one of the keys tonight is that somebody else in an Irish uniform is going to have to step up and make a contribution offensively. As you saw there from that play, everybody for the Hoosiers very aware of where Monty Williams is, so they'll send 2 or 3 extra people at him. He'll have to find open guys, and they'll have to make some shots tonight.
Pat Graham in now for Indiana. Jason Williams for the Irish, and there's the freshman from Detroit. Good defensive pressure by Marcus Hughes. Great look to Graham. The assist, and what a pass by Alan Henderson. Good vision. It's back to a 9-point deficit now for the Fighting Irish. Now one of the better outside threats, Ryan Hoover, is on the bench right now. Cozen, one of the better outside shooters. Jason Williams for 3. Not a lot of great perimeter shooters for Notre Dame. And the foul. It'll be on Marcus Hughes. Billy Taylor ready to come back in for Notre Dame and head coach John McLeod. And don't forget, Notre Dame will use a 9- and 10-man rotation. Indiana only has 10 men available. Bobby Knight has elected to redshirt a couple of the freshmen, so he's only really got 10 on the active roster.
Yeah, Robert Foster and Robbie Eggers, the two freshmen that will be redshirted. Foster a guard, and Eggers a post player, about 6'10".
Now it's a backcourt for the Irish of Todd Leary and Steve Hart. Leary, a senior from Indianapolis. Foul out front. It's on Admore White. Not much going right now in the early going for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Don't forget, coming up next on ESPN right after our contest in Bloomington, X-Ray Hip. A Maryland Terrapins high-flying forward leading the Terrapins into Sooner Country, Oklahoma and Maryland tonight right after our matchup here.
Joe Smith posting impressive numbers. Gary Williams has them going. They'll have a tough test tonight.
Billy Tubbs and the Oklahoma Sooners coming off a victory on the road over the weekend on Saturday over the Oregon State Beavers. So a couple of free throws. 16-5 lead now.
See, already Indiana in the bonus. So they're shooting free throws for the next 13 minutes anytime they're fouled, which is a double whammy for the Irish because they're 11 down, and every foul the Hoosiers go to the line.
White. Monty Williams stays with it, so does Marcus Hughes. Evans as well. And it's Marcus Hughes. What tenacity. Good look inside. White finds Williams.
Persistence pays. Great work by the freshman Marcus Hughes to keep it alive, but also to keep it alive within a range where he could finally get it. So often you see guys tap it and tap it away from him.
The sweet stroke. You were talking about it from the left side. Brian Evans. Back to an 11-point lead. Hughes angled out nicely. Evans getting it done at the defensive end. 12.5 minutes left in the first half. Indiana by 11. A constant motion offense. Hart can't get it. Henderson's got it.
He walked.
He did walk.
Goodness.
They'll give him a jump ball, but he was doing those little steps.
He was all over the place.
Backing his way in with those baby steps. What about Bob? Well, it was Alan Henderson. The turnover, they called it a jump ball. Alternating possession arrow gives it back to Notre Dame. A lot of people forget about the great defense that Bob Knight teaches here at Indiana. Inside Williams gets the dribble drive penetration move on Pat Graham. Good look with the left hand.
Money. Save some of that. Oh, that was sweet.
Fortunately for the Irish, Monty has been a slow starter this year as they get it inside. High percentage play. Evans with the basket. Taylor with the foul. And Indiana looking for the three-point play.
Good penetration here. Look at his eyes. See his head and his eyes up, looking for an open cutter. That's a nice catch by Evans. And then a good presence of where he was to finish it off. But Indiana does such a great job of moving without the ball. If you turn your head for a moment, you're beat.
We were in practice yesterday. A very intense practice for the Indiana Hoosiers.
Is there any other kind of practice that goes on here?
Film study, more practice, more film. Back to the floor, gentlemen. Indiana in control of the early going. The Irish are down by a dozen in the early going. All 9 of their points from Monty Williams. He's been giving them plenty of offense, but not much else from the rest of the squad, and that concerns their head coach.
And one man is so dominant. So we've really focused on spreading, trying to spread the offense, get balance, and have these other players step up and start making these shots.
Someone else has to come through for the Fighting Irish. Monty Williams with all 9. Quick lineup out there now for the Irish. Great look inside. Admore White, the freshman, found Monty. He's got all 11. It's a 10-point deficit.
What a nice cut. Monty realized his defender turned his head. Anytime a guy turns his head, take him to the rack. And a great find by Admore White.
Another look at that splendid play.
See, watch Monty come up and set up Evans, and then bang. Right on target.
Super movement without the ball. That's a trademark of the Indiana Hoosiers, the great cutting offense. Head coach Bob Knight.
Well, you know, both of these teams play a similar style, man-to-man defense and then passing game offense. So passing game offense is only effective when everybody reacts to what the defense gives.
Henderson couldn't get the slam on the great dish from Damon Bailey. He'll go to the line to shoot 2. Monty Williams with off the point so far. Alan Henderson going to the free throw line. He's got 5 thus far for Indiana. We'll get into the Monty Williams story in just a second. It is an amazing comeback story for Monty Williams, though, as Hoover comes back into the contest. That's Ryan Hoover, the sophomore from Roscoe, Illinois. He takes over for Jason Williams. Monty Williams, though, sitting out a couple of seasons with a heart ailment, coming back last year, proving he could do it once again, and really doing it so far this season in the early going.
And he's doing it to the tune of becoming a surefire first-round pick in next year's NBA draft.
Henderson going for the steal. Williams, good idea, posting up Graham, and a shove underneath as Ross was belted out of the way. They'll call it on Evans.
You know, you talked about Monty Williams and having to sit out those 2 seasons with the heart problem, but he said that in a sense was a blessing because it helped him reprioritize basketball and look at things in a broader perspective. And now that he's healthy and able to play, he brings a tremendous work ethic to the court day in and day out.
The inbound series played to perfection. Joe Ross with the basket for Notre Dame. Notre Dame, the last 15-20 minutes of their practice today, all they did was work on the inbounds passes, baseline, sideline, paid off there. Damon Bailey is short. Joe Ross has it. And John McLeod's team with the ball, down by 10. White with the penetration. It'll be a charge. Wipe it off. Yeah, Hightower very emphatic with the call. Great aggressive play, though. By
Nice little
Admore
shake
White.
and bake dribble to get to the cup.
A 10-point lead for the Indiana Hoosiers on their home floor. Assembly Hall in Bloomington. Pat Graham has the baseline. Can't finish it. Joe Ross with the rebound. Joel Myers along with Clark Kellogg. Basketball at its best in Indiana. Monty Williams. Beautiful move. Monty Williams with 15. Or make that his 13th point. He's got 13 of their 15. Joe Ross with the other 2. And it's down to 8. Damon Bailey pressured and fouled by Ryan Hoover. We're in a state, of course, Clark, and you know all too well, Indiana. Basketball's not just a game, it's a way of life.
It certainly is, and there's been such tremendous success here over the years. 5 national championships going back to 1940, 53, 76, 81, and 87. This is a team, though, that to maximize its potential, they need this guy, Damon Bailey, to bring consistent effort to the floor, as well as Alan Henderson. These 2 guys have to bring a lot of intensity because that type of play is contagious.
In David Bailey's 102 games coming in tonight, he had only been the leading scorer 12 times for the Hoosiers. I think that's really got to change, though. He's got to take it upon himself to be more of an offensive threat.
I think so. The intangibles are very important, but with what they lost from last year, 4 solid seniors, actually 2 NBA players, he's got to look to score a little more.
They get it inside for Ross. Good idea. They failed to execute. He wanted to slip it on the other side, reverse it. And that is the 10th turnover now as it went off the fingertips of Monty Williams for Notre Dame. 9:53 left in the first half. Indiana up by 10. It stays at 10 with Henderson grabbing the rebound. Pat Graham. And the follow by Evans. I think it's safe to say the head coach of the Hoosiers is not all that excited about his team if they don't take a shot. Well, if they do take a shot, he's not excited with too many passes. They've got to have at least 3 or 4 or 5 passes. Only 1 or 2, he's upset.
Yeah, he wants to see them probe the defense because typically you'll get a better shot if you work the defense, and also if you miss it, you've got a chance for a second shot.
Ryan Hoover answering for the Irish with a three-pointer. It cuts it down to a 9-point Indiana lead. Pat Graham finds Henderson. Well, too many easy baskets right now for Indiana, right around the rim.
Yeah, if you took a look at a shot chart, it would look like grapes on the vine for the Hoosiers.
Yes.
Because they've all been clustered inside.
Billy Taylor coming around the pick of Ross. And Henderson has Monty Williams coming over his back, picking up the foul.
I don't know about that one.
I can tell you like the call.
Oh, my. This is just hooping. Dribble in, draw defenders, and find the open guy. That was just basketball. I mean, that's simple playground basketball. Except it's on ESPN and it's here in Assembly Hall.
It's very serious playground basketball.
Oh, sure. Just a little simple fake pick and roll. Alan Henderson never really set a pick. All he did was roll when his defender left.
The coach's son, Pat Knight, coming in for the first time, taking over for Pat Graham. Henderson really came on in the second half. Damon Bailey owned the first half of the Kentucky game, but it had to be encouraging to the Hoosiers head coach that Henderson wanted the ball in crunch time.
Well, he's a go-to guy. He's got that kind of game. He can take it outside. He's extremely good on the offensive boards. He has excellent timing.
Hoover blocked from behind by Evans. Trying to use his body to shield away the defender. Damon Bailey for three. He's been quiet so far from the offensive end. Coming off what Bob Knight said was the best game so far as an Indiana Hoosier for Damon Bailey. Billy Taylor the fall away. It's back to a 10-point deficit.
You know, Notre Dame doing a pretty decent job here considering that Indiana has been in the bonus since the 13-minute mark of maintaining contact. See, if they can keep it at 10 or under, they should feel pretty good about themselves.
Joe Ross forcing it. Evans with the rebound. The lob, Leary wasn't looking for it, but still gets it.
I think that was actually intended for Henderson.
The holding foul on Ross. He'll sit down now as Gotch is ready to come in. That is the third foul on Joe Ross. And getting ready to come in for the first time for Indiana. Lightning fast freshman Sharon Wilkerson. He was Mr. Basketball in the state of Indiana in his senior season of high school, but he lost the title.
Boy, Alan Henderson has done an awful lot of work, and you can see that he is sucking up most of the oxygen in the gym. He was bent over there as he waited to get the ball for his free throw, but he's worked extremely hard at both ends, and I expect him to come out shortly.
Well, Sharon Wilkerson, to wrap that up, lost the title because he dropped off the All-Star team for the state of Indiana. Alan Henderson hits the free throw. And we've got a timeout on the floor. An 11-point advantage for the Hoosiers with 7:31 left in the first 20. He was destined to become a Hoosier since the 8th grade. And now in his senior season, Coach Bob Knight talks about the development of Damon Bailey.
I've seen stretches and games and periods within games where you couldn't have asked for a better player, but not over a consistent length of time, and that's what we're trying to get with him.
So he's looking for the consistency. I thought it was interesting as the Irish have the ball trailing by 11. When we talked to Coach Knight yesterday, he mentioned that in the 4 years of high school for Damon Bailey, his best effort wasn't needed all the time, and that really did hurt him.
Sure.
As Carl Kozin hits the bucket, his first basket's a three-pointer, and it's down to 8. Damon Bailey, great penetration. Took the initiative as soon as he got the ball.
His ears were burning. He just heard that bite from Coach Knight about consistency and decided to get aggressive on the offensive end.
Williams got Bailey in the air, and he burns him.
Nice patience there to lift the defender with the ball fake. And then Knight shoots the nice, easy jump shot.
Pat Knight had it taken away. The loose ball coming out to Ryan Hoover. They have the numbers of 3-on-2. And Williams walked with the ball.
Well, he probably should have just kicked it to the right. Jason Williams was wide open for a 3. And Monty knows he probably should have kicked that one outside right away.
12 turnovers already for Notre Dame.
Well, factor that in, Joel, and the fact that IU's been in the bonus since the 13-minute mark, and it's an 8-point game. So Notre Dame has done a good job on the defensive boards for the most part, and they're maintaining contact when they're clearly being outplayed.
Is it just me, or does Damon Bailey play larger than 6'3"? Because he played like he was 6'5", 6'6", constantly in that Kentucky game, and again he goes inside.
Well, he's more comfortable inside, although he can shoot the 3. I think he feels a lot more comfortable in the paint because he can use his body and his jumping ability.
10-point advantage under 6 minutes left of the first half. Indiana on top of the Fighting Irish by 10. Monty Williams. Nice maneuver inside. Couldn't capitalize. Another look on that last trip down the floor, Clark, for Damon Bailey.
Look at this. He loves to curl off the down screen. That gives him a chance to catch it in tight. Good dribble. Nice spin move here. See, he felt Jason Williams' body the whole time. And as a former player that liked to post up, anytime you could feel that defender, you felt like you had him in a place where you wanted it. And that way, that time, Damon Bailey just able to spin off the defender and get the deuce.
14 now for Monty Williams. The first free throw of the night for the Fighting Irish compared to 18 attempts already. It easily could be, though, as you had mentioned, a good 20-point lead for Indiana.
Exactly. Notre Dame just continues to scratch and claw.
15 now for Monty Williams. The motion offense. It's batted away from Bailey. And Williams leads the 4-on-1. Leaves it for Cozen. How do you like that? Notre Dame is down by only 6.
I'll tell you what. If Notre Dame is able to maintain this, look at the confidence growing now as they get more active defensively.
Their bench is up, everybody involved, everybody active. They were down 10-0 with less than 2 minutes gone in the game. Alternating possession, it stays with Indiana.
Well, you know, I talked to Monty Williams for about 10 minutes prior to the game, and he said the one thing we have to do is convince the younger guys that Indiana's players put on their jerseys just like we do. And I think in the last stretch, you've seen a little more confidence from the Fighting Irish.
So they put up those striped warm-up pants a little differently, though. An 8-point lead now after the basket by Henderson. Ryan Hoover. Under 5 minutes left in the first half. Monty Williams has really shown a great deal of patience, trying to let everything come to him. He's not forcing things.
Plays with poise.
Billy Taylor, back of the rim. Todd Leary trying to go the distance in a blocking foul. It'll be on Carl Cozen. More college basketball comes your way tomorrow. Billy McCaffrey and the Commodores of Vanderbilt trying to bounce back from a lawsuit on ESPN. A doubleheader for you tomorrow. Todd Leary, the senior from Indianapolis, a 5-point average last year, averaging 6 so far over the first 2 this season, with his first 2 points of the evening. And Indiana is back up by 10. John McLeod not afraid to use his freshman. He's got Gotcha there at the low post.
Good pressure on the ball here by Indiana.
Williams with the size advantage. Alan Henderson got a piece of it.
Boy, the Irish bench wanted goaltending.
They reversed it quickly to Henderson. He takes advantage of the situation against the smaller man. It's back to an even dozen. 3 minutes, 53 seconds left in the half. White. And a charge on Admore White. So now just over the last 90 seconds, a little mini run by Indiana has opened it up from a 6-point lead back up to 12. Time out on the floor, 3:50 left in the first 20. We'll be right back to Bloomington, Indiana.
Hoosiers plus 12. Take a look at this play. Monty Williams going to try to get a shot up and over. Alan Henderson going to come from the weak side and say, out of here. Take a look. Williams beats Leary, and then Henderson comes with the block. Now watch how he fills the lane. He really gets out of there and gets to the open court. There's Brian Evans, just a nice loop pass over the top, and then the quick jumper. Didn't put it on the floor. That's a great series at both ends by Henderson.
Todd Leary almost in trouble. Steve Hart with the rebound for Billy Taylor. Right before he broke away, a 6-0 spurt for Indiana over a 1-10 span. Gotch, his first try, denied there by Mandeville, another freshman from La Cañada, California, as Miller goes up. He's in the game for the first time. Pete Miller, freshman from South Bend, will go to the line, a former walk-on. Will shoot 2. Indiana with the nation's longest home winning streak at 31 and counting. The last time they lost, it was back in the 91 season, December of 91, to the Iowa Hawkeyes of head coach Tom Davis, and they only lost that game by 1 point. Another free throw for Miller, and it's back to a 10-point deficit for Notre Dame. Well, you couldn't tell by the way Indiana is pushing up the ball tonight, but with graduation, as Steve Hart drives, he's fouled before he gets it in. They'll call the foul. He won't get the basket. He'll go to the free throw line. Indiana lost 61% of their scoring to graduation, also 48% of the rebounding with the graduation of Calvert Cheney, Greg Graham, Matt Nover, and Chris Reynolds. 2 first-round draft choices from Bob Knight's program.
Exactly. Cheney and Graham. Graham with the Philadelphia 76ers, Cheney with the Bullets, and Matt Nover went overseas to play, playing in Italy, and Chris Reynolds is in law school.
You saw Coach Knight there. He wasn't upset with his team. He was upset with a sign in the student body section. He turned his attention towards some of the students here in Bloomington. Now that sign is quickly down in Bob's house. Marcus Hughes coming back in, the freshman from Detroit. John McLeod certainly not afraid to use his bench tonight.
Well, he told us he was going to try to use 10 players, and I think he's probably gotten close to that number already. Here you see the jersey of Steve Hart. It has blood. He's probably going to have to change that. The Ed Hightower over there talking with Tim Garl.
Alan Henderson actually got away with one in that Kentucky game on Saturday. He had a cut lower lip. They stopped the bleeding, but he also had it all over his jersey. It stayed on the entire game. He never had to take off that jersey. Well, they wondered which team would show up for the Indiana Hoosiers effort-wise. The head coach, he couldn't believe what he saw against Butler in a 4-point loss, 75-71. Then he was ecstatic. He felt like, Bob Knight said after the first 5 or 6 minutes of the Kentucky game, that was as much fun as he's had in basketball in many, many years, simply because of the effort of his team.
I think they're pretty close. They may not be quite to the level they were at against Kentucky, but they're still fairly aggressive here in the early going. You know, the Irish are in a danger zone. It's kind of like driving along the road and coming up to one of those signs that says, you know, we've got a sharp turn here, so you better start slowing down. See, they can either get blown out and sent off the road, or they can slow down and get a couple of good, strong possessions here and go in at halftime feeling real good about themselves with a chance to regroup the second 20 minutes and have a chance.
I think slow down was the key.
Yeah, idle down a bit. You still want to, oh my. Glass and paint everywhere on that one.
Marcus Hughes, not quite yet a certified Mason because he's only a freshman. Leary with the penetration. Bailey can't finish. Mandeville, another freshman after it. Brian Evans back into the game. Leary for 3. Todd Leary. The largest lead now for the Hoosiers. It's up to 15 with 2.5 minutes left in the half.
Boy, they got pounded on the offensive glass there. And the dagger was the 3.
They finally find Monty Williams. He's only triple teamed, though.
Nice swing of the ball here. Beautiful swing of the ball there.
Mandeville with a foul. Away from the ball. So Marcus Hughes is going to get another opportunity to go to the free throw line. Yet to be determined whether that's a positive or a negative for the young man after what we saw that first trip to the free throw line. Out of the overall series, the last win for Notre Dame against Indiana in South Bend in 1988. The last time they won here, they're 1-9 in Assembly Hall. It was 1973. It stays a 15-point lead for Indiana after the miss by Hughes. A foul. Miller coming over the back of Bailey. Oh, coming up at the half. It'll be the Delta Faucet halftime report. Scores and highlights from the Big East. Also, number 16 Fighting Illini. You'll see highlights of that matchup with the Marquette Warriors. And the segment Around the Rim. It's on our halftime report. Right now, the game in danger of getting away from Notre Dame very early. They battled back. It was only a 6-point deficit. A little more than 6 minutes left. But now it's back to 15.
You know, the thing about playing from the bottom side of the scoreboard is you can't afford any dry spells. You can't afford 2 or 3 consecutive empty trips. And that's what happened to Notre Dame, and that's allowed Indiana to stretch it out to 17 now.
Sharon Wilkerson, very quick freshman, back in now for Pat Graham for the Hoosiers. 2 free throws for Bailey. 17-point lead now for the Hoosiers as Cozen takes over for Taylor.
One of the things IU does so well is get to the line because of their motion and recognizing what's available defensively, and they attack the basket.
Williams couldn't get it to go on a very difficult shot. Bailey against Brooks Boyer, who batted it away, and they'll call the foul on Boyer.
Well, a couple of calls have been questionable calls against Notre Dame here in this first half. IU's done a nice job getting to the basket, drawing fouls, but there have been a couple that have been questionable.
13-2 run now over the last 3 minutes for Indiana. Well, Damon Bailey, the leading scorer over the first 2, averaging 26 per game for Indiana. He's got to look for his shot a little bit more, as you can see, over the first 3 years. He really didn't ask for the ball. He didn't want the shot that much. Different story so far this season.
Yeah, he's starting to look at the basket a lot more. And, you know, he's taken 19, actually 29 free throws in the first 2 games this year. That is an absolutely torrid pace.
Thrown away by Boyer, a senior from Jackson, Michigan, who was looking for the cutter. Sloppy now from the Irish. That is their 13th turnover. So Indiana turning it on over the last 5 minutes of the first half. Evans didn't waste any time, did he? Quick release.
When the shot's there, be ready to catch and fire. And traditionally, Indiana has always had a player or 2 that can do that. Ryan Evans fits right in that mold.
Goes in short. Williams blocked by Evans. What a save by Damon Bailey. That great court awareness. Knocked out by Gotch. It still belongs to the Hoosiers with 1:04 left of the first half, and things have certainly disintegrated over the last 5 minutes for Notre Dame. Well, one of the big selling tools is Damon Bailey gets a rest. One of the big selling tools in recruiting for John McLeod. He's got 5 seniors. Most of those seniors, baseline players, frontline players. He can sell those youngsters now that they will get playing time. Somebody of the freshmen like that young man, Gotch, who's out of friends with Texas, gets the rebound. He's getting minutes early in his career at Notre Dame. Backdoor lob. Well, not exactly designed like that. Monty Williams will take it, though, and he'll go to the line looking for the 3-point play.
Well, he's really had to work hard for all of his baskets, expending an awful lot of energy to get looks at the hole. And then he's also had to work at the defensive end. Here you take a look. He just plays this off the backboard, a ricochet, and then Strong, as Mandeville reaches in and commits the foul.
Third foul already for freshman Richard Mandeville. Couple of free throws. Breaks a dry spell for Notre Dame. Monty Williams. He's got 18 of their 34.
Well, Notre Dame has really had nobody else step up, which is one of the keys that we talked about at the top.
Saved by Larry on the baseline. Wilkerson hammered by Williams. And Sharon Wilkerson will go to the free throw line. A couple of very quick freshmen now for Bob Knight this year. Sharon Wilkerson will go to the free throw line. And I was really impressed watching practice yesterday. Steve Hart, the freshman from Terre Haute, Indiana. Very athletic, very quick, great penetrators.
He really is, and he's really a lubricator. That's why he's in the starting lineup. He facilitates movement for the IU ball club. Steve Hart, I'm speaking of.
Now, when Sharon Wilkerson dropped off the All-Star team, lost the title of Mr. Basketball in the state of Indiana as he hits the first of two, many felt that he wouldn't last under head coach Bob Knight, so he's trying to disprove those critics. The freshman from Jeffersonville, Indiana. He led his high school team to the Indiana State Championship last year. It's back to a 20-point lead for Indiana. Williams fouled by Wilkerson. So Jason Williams going to the free throw line for John McLeod's squad.
Well, I don't know what the discrepancy is between free throws between these two teams, but it's got to be pretty large.
That was the first foul on Wilkerson. Well, as you mentioned, Clark, they went with the bonus. 13 minutes left in the first half. Very sloppy beginning for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. If you joined us late, 2 minutes into the contest, Indiana had a 10-0 lead. Jason Williams hits the free throw. Fortunately, Monty Williams has been on early for Notre Dame, or it really could be lopsided. Another free throw for Williams, down to 18. Williams, or make that Monty Williams, almost gets it. Knight at the buzzer. Everything going Indiana's way, and he almost got that one to fall. Real big start by Alan Henderson, who finished strong in the Saturday matchup. 15 points and 6 rebounds for Alan Henderson. Time now for the Culture Fawcett halftime report. Let's head back to the studio and John Saunders. John, point deficit right now for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, and welcome back once again to Assembly Hall. As we get ready for the start of the second half, Joel Myers along with Clark Kellogg. Fortunately for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, their leading scorer coming in with a 33-point average. Monty Williams did keep them close early.
He really did. He did just about all of their scoring. Had 18 points in that first half. And take a look at him making a nice move, reacting to the overplay by Brian Evans, and then getting an easy one at the basket on the back cut. Indiana was dominant at both the free throw line and on the window. Here you see just good work by Damon Bailey, and then also continued work by Leary and his teammates. And finally, Leary, who actually dug that loose ball out of there, backs up behind the three-point line. Nothing but rope.
The big difference at the free throw line, Clark.
There it is. You see the Hoosiers plus 17 in makes, plus 19 in attempts. And, you know, they came into this game having shot 19 more free throws than the opposition in their 2 games. So nothing new there. Rebounding about even. Then the other problem for the Fighting Irish, the 13 turnovers, which in the early going allowed Indiana to jumpstart things and get off to a double-digit lead.
So the Fighting Irish with a 2-1 record get ready for the start of the second half. Down by 18. Alan Henderson, he finished so strong in that Kentucky game. He picked up right where he left off with 15 and 6 in the first half here.
Yeah, he pounded a lot of production into about 15 minutes there and got good rest. Notre Dame's keys to start the half are, 1, to look at this thing in segments and try to chip away 3, 4, 5 points at a time and be in a position somewhere near the 6 or 7 mark where they're within striking distance. They've got to defend without fouling.
Last touch by Alan Henderson. So Monty Williams to start the second half. The offensive threat is now the defensive threat at the opposite end, guarding the leading scorer in the first 20 minutes of play for the Hoosiers of Indiana. Henderson with a 15 and 6, 14 for Evans in the first 20 minutes of play, and 10 for Damon Bailey. Ryan Hoover working with White in the backcourt to start the second half.
Cozen got the nod as one of the starting front court people for Notre Dame. He's got a good perimeter shot.
Here's the three-point try. Cozen a little bit short. Went off the front of the rim.
So oftentimes when you're down by this margin, you'd like to be the first one to score.
Lindemann in the jump hook. Well short. The Irish trying to pick up the tempo. Knocked away from Monty Williams. So another turnover. A force there, though. Not a very positive beginning right now for the Irish. Lindemann throwing that one away. A 4-on-2. And the foul is going to be on Lindemann. Monty Williams going to the line, but unfortunately cracked his left elbow when he hit the floor. It looks like it really just went numb on him. So Monty Williams, if he can continue, will go to the line to shoot 2 free throws. He's been a second half player so far in the first 3 games this season.
There you see what he's been able to do. 31 points against Valparaiso. He got 42 in that one. 22 against BC in the second half. 22 against San Diego. He seems to be all right. He took a hard spill, came right down on that left elbow. Probably just tickled that funny bone a bit. I hope that's the extent of it.
Well, the right elbow is working. Fortunately for the Fighting Irish, they're down by 17. That is the first point for either team in the second half. Took almost 90 seconds. Monty Williams now with 19. Add more White very alertly, giving them another opportunity at the offensive end. Williams for 3. It's early, but that could have been a huge momentum builder.
The key for Notre Dame, again, defend without fouling and get good looks at the basket every time down.
What a move. Todd Leary put on Ryan Hoover.
Weak side defenders were locked into their men and lost sight of the ball.
Goes in. Ross kept it alive, but Evans has it. And the reach-in, silly foul by Carl Cozen.
Shake and take. Leary is already by Hoover. Actually, there it is right there. Nice crossover. Got around Hoover, and then the help was late getting there. And Leary with a nice, strong move.
Carl Cozen will sit down. Billy Taylor back into the lineup now. John McLeod had to be upset because that kind of foul got them in foul trouble early and put Indiana at the free throw line for the last 13 minutes of the first 20 minutes of play. A reach-in foul 90 feet away from the basket. So Cozen finds the seal on the bench. Henderson now in the paint. Good defense by Monty Williams. Look at Evans. He never gives up on the play, does he? And he draws the foul on Billy Taylor. Or will they call it on Joe Ross? It'll be on Joe Ross instead. Great hustle. We talked about his court awareness, Brian Evans. He does the little things so well. And look at the way he moves without the ball. Lindemann follows the miss by Evans. Beautiful inbounds play.
John McLeod talked about that at the shoot-around. His team gave up 6 points last year to Indiana on inbounds plays on the baseline. And the key to that play was how quickly Evans got loose and how quickly it was inbounded after the referee gave it to Bailey. Defense wasn't set.
Taken away by Henderson. Tough for Monty Williams. He's triple team. You have to like his patience, though. His team is down by 21, and he's still not forcing the issue at the offensive end. What a no-look touch pass. Henderson finishes, but Evans did it again. 17 now for Alan Henderson. Timeout Notre Dame. It is ballooned to 23. We'll be right back to Assembly Hall.
What a nice feed. Watch when he catches this ball. Right there, Alan Henderson is right about here making a strong basket cut. He's going to get to the basket and dunk it with flavor. Watch him go to the other side and then flush it with two hands. Beautiful pass, excellent finish.
Ryan Hoover out of the timeout, and Damon Bailey comes up with it. So the flavor of your choice, Alan Henderson. Bailey likes to take it to the basket. He's only 6'3", and he worked diligently during the offseason in the weight room. You can see that Damon Bailey did bulk up a little bit in the upper half of his body.
Well, as a high school player, that was one of his greatest strengths. He was able to go inside and post up people. And that's one of the adjustments he's had to make as a college player, is that he's not able to overpower and out-jump nearly as many guys as he was able to do that too in high school. Thus, the struggles he's had with consistency in his career, but no problems tonight.
10 so far for Damon Bailey. He had a 10-point average last year. He's the former Big Ten Freshman of the Year, Mr. Basketball as well in the state of Indiana. Give you an idea of the way he's been balanced throughout his career, but now he is taking more of a scoring load. He hits 1 of 2 as Hoover has the rebound, and that's what they need, though. They need Damon Bailey as a senior to step it up.
Exactly. He's the catalyst, 1 of 2 for this club. I think Alan Henderson is the other one.
Beautiful drive. Admore White couldn't get it to go, but Monty Williams with no mistake about that one. Monty Williams now 21 points for the Irish. He's got 21 of their 39. Bailey from Evans. Billy Taylor with the board. Well, Admore White tried to no look it inside. Evans on the floor for Henderson. Henderson, look out. Hammered by Monty Williams. And it's going to be a flagrant foul on Williams.
Boy, I don't think that's a good call. Monty Williams makes a play on the ball, and because Henderson hits the deck awkwardly, the flagrant foul is whistled. I think that's a bad call. Now, we'll have a chance to look at it again, and my mind might change, but let's take a look. Henderson going strong to the right. Well, that's close, and I guess if it's close, then maybe you lean towards the flagrant foul. Monty Williams came in hard, went after the ball, I thought, and just made contact, and in that position, you're going to have an awkward spill.
Got a lot of the body before he got the ball. He did get the ball, though, eventually, but he sure got a lot of Henderson's body first. 17 now. They're going along with 8 boards for Alan Henderson. And the Hoosiers will have the ball out of bounds at the offensive end. Indiana by 22, 15-54 left in the second half. The options on the inbound series, it's Henderson. And another foul on Williams. They had the first option, the second option. I guess that was their third look, Clark.
Yeah, and Monty Williams just lost track of Alan Henderson. Good patience by the inbounds passer there. I think it was Damon Bailey. But so often guys will panic in that situation, afraid of the count. See, there it is right there. See, Monty Williams had the back of his head to Alan Henderson, which is a clear sign for the offensive player to go to the basket.
You would think it's a three-point game the way this crowd at Assembly Hall is into it.
Well, anytime there's a tough foul, it ignites the ire of the fans, but I really don't think that foul, either one of, certainly the second one wasn't, and I don't think the first one was a...
There's a flagrant foul. Alan Henderson, retaliation, and now it's getting ugly.
That was clearly intentional.
Yes.
And uncalled for.
2 schools in the state of Indiana. And the temperature is rising at Assembly Hall. So now Monty Williams will go to the free throw line to shoot 2, and then the Irish will have the ball once again, but it was obvious. It was intentional this time.
That's as obvious as my feet fit into a size 16 shoe. See, he never even goes after the ball. He goes right at Monty Williams.
Henderson.
Here it is again, another angle. See, that's absolutely uncalled for. Monty Williams went after the ball on the play before. Henderson never made an attempt at the ball, and that's when you can get somebody hurt.
Not quite Bill Lambier, Karl Malone, but pretty close.
Yeah, and both of these guys are really outstanding kids.
Yes.
I guess emotion has taken over, but again, I go back to the initial play. I don't think it was a flagrant foul on Monty Williams, the initial one.
Now the officials getting the two teams together. Good idea. Ed Hightower, a veteran referee of the Big Ten and Big 8 conferences.
Good move by the officials here. But you know that teams are going to try to retaliate if they feel they've been physically challenged, and that's basically, hopefully, we put a period on it and we'll move on and play hoops the rest of the way.
Well, as an independent, the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame don't have any conference rivals, but they've always got the Hoosiers here in Indiana. Admiral right off the mark. Henderson aggressively gets another rebound. 9 boards for Alan Henderson. Leary. Henderson again making 10 rebounds. And a reach in on Williams is his 4th. 4 fouls on Monty Williams.
Take a look at Henderson and Williams getting to know each other. And then here it is again. Yeah, there's tremendous frustration now. Good move here by John McLeod. He's probably forced to do it because of the 4 fouls, but I think it's a good move. Let Monty Williams calm down before things get really, really nasty here.
Do you see what Coach Knight did? Give him a little pat on the way by. It's a tough game, hard fouls. Just maintain, basically, is what Coach Knight is saying to Monty Williams. Bailey for Leary. They don't have their basketball here, do they? Indiana by 24. Hoover for 3. He answers for the Fighting Irish.
See, if you're the Irish, I think you almost just have to turn this into a wild affair. Not from a physical standpoint, but get behind that three-point arc, get your shooters some looks, and see if you can get back into it. If you just maintain the status quo, that's what's going to happen right there.
Damon Bailey once again powering against a smaller guard, Ryan Hoover.
Well, he's limping a little bit. He's been bothered by tendonitis in that left knee. And Bailey really limping, having a tough time getting out on Hoover.
Brian Evans with the rebound after the Hoover miss. Indiana by 23. Under 14 and a half left. Todd Leary, like he got away with a slide there. Lindemann, new to his repertoire. Henderson.
What a game he's had. He's been so active at both ends of the floor. Really no sign of being bothered at all by that right leg. Active on both boards. I think Notre Dame is just content to try to get Hoover some three-point shots and at worst go 3 for 2.
Big question, Clark, facing Notre Dame in recent years. Can they remain an independent and stay competitive in basketball?
Not in the round ball sport. I think they've got to align themselves with the conference. You talk about recruiting and the fact that kids love to be able to play in a conference. I think you really got to take a look at trying to get into a conference, maybe the Great Midwest, maybe the Big East. And look what they've got left on this schedule. There you see the home games on the left. 3 nationally ranked teams currently, UCLA, North Carolina, Louisville. The good thing is those games are in South Bend.
Right.
Then they go to USC, which won't be an easy game away from South Bend, Kentucky on the road, and then Duke on the road, who I just saw Saturday. Marquette, another team that a lot of people don't get a chance to see an awful lot of, but nonetheless, very solid ball club there. And then Arizona in the opening round of the Maui Invitational.
Would it help the Fighting Irish and John McLeod, of course, in particular, to have natural conference rivals? Would it help him in the recruiting process?
I would think so. Again, the fact that kids like to play in conferences, and there's an intensity that you get in conference play that you typically don't get outside of the conference, except for some exceptional matchups. So a conference is certainly the way that Notre Dame has to be thinking about going. And again, the great Midwest with St. Louis, Marquette, UAB.
Seems to make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, that certainly seems like it could be a fit, as well as possibly the Big East, if in fact they would add a team or two. So I'm sure Notre Dame's got to be thinking about joining the conference.
Steve Hart coming into the contest now for Damon Bailey. The Irish with the ball down by 23 with 13.5 minutes remaining. Gotch. Fouled inside by Lindemann.
Nice take. Gotch. If a strong wind came by, he might be blown to half court, but he has good basketball skills.
Yes.
He has good basketball skills, and they like him. As he gets stronger, showed you a nice little move there.
He's 6'11", 200 pounds, and a smile came to John McLeod's face when he started talking to us about Matt Gotch. He wears a shoe size, one shoe size larger than you, believe it or not, a size 17.
Well, like I tell everybody, you've got to have a base when you're north of 6'6". You need a foundation. Otherwise, you look like a polar bear, man, if you had a big body and little tiny feet.
Just a little leverage down there. Gotch gets one of two.
Indiana's so difficult to come back on because they spread you out. They start moving the ball. You get tired defensively, and then they take you back door. Good spacing here, good movement.
Evans fouled on his drive to the basket. He'll go to the line to shoot two. We were just talking about natural conference rivals, Clark, and one of the most amazing numbers I saw last year was Indiana's record in Big Ten play. To lose in overtime after Henderson went down, it was the second game after Henderson went down. They lose in overtime to Ohio State. I'll mention that with you here, Clark Kellogg. But to go 17-1, an amazing accomplishment.
Oh, it really is when you talk about everybody knowing what you want to do, more so in conference play than when you play outside of the conference. Everybody knows tendencies. Everybody knows personnel. So it basically boils down to execution and focus. And when you can do that through the course of a conference season and go into some of the tough places you have to play in the Big Ten, that's a marvelous feat.
Couple of free throws for Brian Evans, a sophomore from Terre Haute, the complete player for the Indiana Hoosiers. Does a little bit of everything for Coach Bob Knight. Gotch over Evans, and Evans battles to keep it alive. Evans for three.
All night long, they say, when he's got that kind of time and that kind of look. 24/7 with that stroke of his.
He has matched his season average over the first two. He's got 19 now. Nice high-low there. Gotch getting it from the big man, Ross. And the foul on Leary. Well, another big year for the Big Ten already this year. 6 in the Associated Press's top 25 rankings. Indiana number 12 right now. The Michigan Wolverines number 3, Purdue number 11, the Fighting Illini, Minnesota, and the Wisconsin Badgers.
Well, you've got some outstanding individual players on all of those teams. Deion Thomas at Illinois, Glenn Robinson, to me, probably the best player in the country in terms of what he brings skill-wise and demeanor. He's just plays so hard and is so unselfish. And then Michigan plays Duke this weekend, but they might have to do that without Juwan Howard. I saw where he strained an Achilles tendon and may not be able to go. He's day-to-day.
Steve Hart just barely had it poked away. Evans trying to set up a teammate once again with the lob. It still belongs. Now they'll say it'll go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame will take over with 12:19 remaining. And what a bad break for head coach Steve Fisher of Michigan, because they're not a very deep group this year.
Right, he's still looking to develop some contributors off the bench. They lost so much off the bench with Vasco and Pelinka and Eric Riley and Michael Talley last year.
Monty Williams now back into the game.
Pat Graham defending Monty Williams. They just switched though, and it's him and Henderson again. But I think that fuse has been quieted. Steve
Hart leaves it for Leary. Well, as far as head coach Bob Knight is concerned, it's that line they used to use a few years ago. The system is the solution. You work within the system and you'll win. You may have to give up a little bit of your own game, but this offensive motion system has been so efficient. The Indiana Hoosiers, as John Ross, it's his first two.
You know, you talk about the system and the passing game offense. To me, it's really the best way to play because it allows you to be a player, to create, to react to the defense. You've got some parameters that you have to operate within, but you just need to make basketball plays, and the toughest part is understanding the game and then reacting within it.
Alan Henderson just picked up his third foul as we come back to Assembly Hall in Bloomington. Not a two-point game here, John. Indiana by 25 over the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. 11:29 left in the contest. Indiana has really dictated the tempo since the outset.
See, Indiana really helps the ball side. They really shift from weak side to strong side.
Truly denying that entry to Monty Williams.
One way you can beat them is if you can skip past the ball over the top, but typically there's pretty good pressure on the passer, which takes away that avenue.
Graham and Williams after it. Monty Williams, last touch by Pat Graham. It'll belong to the Irish of Notre Dame. That is only the 8th turnover of the contest and the first, or make it the third of the second half against Indiana. They have protected the ball well. Under 11 minutes to play.
Nice look. See, there's the skip pass you can get.
Jason Williams reversing it nicely.
And the reason you can get that again is because I use weak side defenders. The guys away from the ball really move to the strong side of the floor. So if you skip past it, they don't have a chance to get back to the shooter.
Pat Graham blocked by Monty Williams. Looked all the shove down low on Monty Williams, and Graham will go to the line to shoot two. Goes in now. Williams is gone. He finishes with 23. 10 below his average after the first 3 games, and 3 rebounds to go along with the team leading 23.
He's got a nice game. Reminds me a little bit, not only facially but also in terms of his game, of Lionel Simmons,
Good
the
call.
L train. Facially looks a little bit like him, about the same size. He's probably more of a natural 2-guard and 3 player at the next level, whereas Lionel had to convert to those spots.
Pat Graham, the senior from Florence Knob, Indiana, makes it a 25-point lead for the Hoosiers. He's got 4. Well, the Indiana team, as it's knocked out of bounds, still belonging to the Fighting Irish, the Indiana team that showed up tonight, the same that Bob Knight saw on Saturday at the Hoosier Dome against the Kentucky Wildcats, a very aggressive group. They dictated the tempo from the outset. They like the open court game. You really don't think of them that often as a fast break team, but remember a quote by Tom Davis, the head coach of Iowa, saying, "We are no longer the best fast break team in the Big Ten Conference. It's the Indiana Hoosiers."
They take what you give them. And if they rebound after a good defensive series, if they rebound cleanly, they'll get it out immediately. And if they get lanes filled, then you want to take advantage of that and get some easy scores, and they'll do that. Steve Hart really pushes the ball from the backcourt position. Damon will push it, maybe not so much with the dribble as he does with the pass, but they take advantage of whatever the defense presents.
That foul on John Ross.
You won't see that happen much. Larry missing the free throw. He's right about 80 plus for his career.
Hoover for 3. He's got another. He's been the lone bright spot in the second half for Notre Dame. Total of 12 now for Ryan Hoover. That's his 3rd three-pointer.
Well, you talk about this Notre Dame team and what has to happen for them with that tough schedule they've got to have to entertain thoughts of postseason play. Guys like Hoover and Taylor and Cozen have to step up and contribute, because you know, barring foul problems, Monty Williams is going to be good for 25 or better night in and night out.
Fighting Irish of Notre Dame were 9-18 last year. Senior dominated front line with Monty Williams and the Ross brothers, and 5 scholarships available for John McLeod.
I was talking to Jimmy Black, the assistant coach here and former North Carolina guard, and they're in a recruiting window, and he'll be pounding that pavement pretty good.
Alan Henderson sits down with a total of 21. You would have to think that's the last we'll see of the junior forward for Indiana tonight.
Possibly.
You say that with some doubt in your
Right,
voice.
you never quite know with Coach Knight. But Henderson had a strong effort tonight at both ends.
Steve Hart takes it away quickly for Graham. Hart follows.
Boy, did he use the rim to get up on that basket? Sure, that shouldn't be a hoop. I guess the official was watching the orange instead of watching Hans Hart. Yeah, that's okay in a dunk contest, but you can't grab the goal during play.
You thought he was hanging a little bit long up there, did you?
Well, let's take a look.
Left
Here you
hand.
go. Look at that. See, he's got his hand. Look at this. He's got his hand all over the cup. That should not be a hoop. But it wouldn't make much difference. I mean, it's only a 25-point margin.
Dozen can't collect it, and Evans has another rebound. I can tell Clark Kellogg never hung on the rim.
No,
With the basket.
if you're going to dunk it right. Don't use any crutch to get up there. And he doesn't need one. He's got big-time hops. Steve Hart can fly. He doesn't need the help of the rim.
Hoover. He comes around that pick and spots up nicely for the three-pointer. That's his 4th of the contest, 15 overall for Ryan Hoover. You have to like, though, what is developing now for Indiana with Hart and Wilkerson, the backcourt of the future with Damon Bailey as senior. And they have the young man from Texas coming in as well. As Hart is blocked and also fouled on his way to the basket. He'll go to the line to shoot 2. Coming up this Friday on ESPN at 7:30 Eastern Time, it's Outside the Lines. One of the features is Our Nation Obsessed with an athlete overcome anxiety. That is Friday night, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. Outside the Lines. Good recruiting class coming in for the Hoosiers of Indiana is Steve Hart. Hits the 2 free throws. He's got 8 points now. So the lead is back to 26. Hart showing us the leaping ability, putting it back on Admore White. Lindemann with the rebound. And a travel on Steve Hart. Time out on the floor. We'll be right back to Assembly Hall in Bloomington. Indiana on their way to raising their record to 2-1, in control over the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. And what a great matchup. Illinois and Marquette.
Sure.
Indiana overwhelming Notre Dame tonight at Assembly Hall. Joel Myers, Clark Kellogg in Bloomington. Don't forget, right after our matchup here, Bob Carpenter and Digger Phelps waiting to bring you the Maryland Terrapins and the Oklahoma Sooners as Admore White loses it, but it was last touched by the Hoosiers.
Boy, the tone of this game was set early. Notre Dame on their first few possessions turned it over, didn't get any good looks. Indiana very aggressive defensively. Got themselves to the free throw line 28 times in that first half. And from there on, it's pretty much been on cruise control for the Hoosiers.
Miller on the baseline. Indiana in recent years has been notorious for making as many free throws in a game as her opponent attempts.
Well, again, that's part of the motion offense and the way they attack the goal. They get you out of position defensively, and then they go strong to the basket and force you to foul.
Evans sits down with a new career high in rebounds. He has 12 to go along with 19 points. He's only 1 point off his career best there. He had 20 last year.
He's kind of like saran wrap. You really can't see it unless you're up close on it, but it does a good job.
I like that analysis.
He really, I mean, he's kind of a guy out there that just kind of floats around. He'll bury a couple of J's, but, I mean, I wouldn't have guessed he had 12 rebounds.
He's another one of Coach Knight's players that lets the game come to him. Steve Hart not waiting for the game to come to him at the defensive end. He's got another block. Great looking leaper, Steve Hart, the freshman from Terre Haute.
From behind, just chases down Miller and sends it out of there.
Sharon Wilkerson working into the backcourt now with Hart. That is their backcourt of the future. Pat Graham off the miss, who's fouled by Gotch. And talking to the staff here and talking about Steve Hart, they said he was one of the best athletes to come in to ever play at Indiana, and very mature as a freshman, both physically and psychologically. There's Steve Hart.
There you get a good look at him. No doubt about his athleticism. He's twisted up. There's nothing extra there. He's cut up pretty nicely. Can get off the floor. He's still at the point where his basketball skills are a little behind his athleticism. But as the gap closes, what you have is a special kind of player, because he brings energy and he brings the kind of plays to both ends of the floor that you can't teach. And those kind of plays ignite not only the crowd, but teammates as well.
Indiana, by the way, has lived at the line tonight. Pat Graham hits that one. Indiana up by 27. They have been to the line better than 40 times tonight.
Well, when you come on the road, especially in this building, you've got to get off to a decent start.
They thought it was off the foot of Admore White. They say instead Sharon Wilkerson touched it last. It'll belong to the Fighting Irish. 6:42 remaining. Irish will fall to 2-2. Indiana will pick up their second consecutive victory. Last touch by Lindemann. Well, a late wake-up call for the Indiana Hoosiers, losing to Butler in their opener 75-71, when their head coach did not know really what to expect from this team after losing Graham and Calvert Chaney, the National Player of the Year last season. Also Nover and a couple of other role players. But they responded against Kentucky. Started out very hot tonight.
Well, they had a week to gear up for that Kentucky game. And typically when Coach Knight has that much time with his squad, the result is much improved over the prior game.
Jump ball called. Alternating possession. It still belongs to Indiana. Steve Miller sits down. Back into the game now. Ryan Hoover, second leading scorer for the Fighting Irish with 15. Behind the 23 of Monty Williams. If you joined us late, Monty fouled out. A little less than 10 minutes left of the contest. What a pass to Hart. Lindemann can't follow. And Hart didn't waste any time turning.
Not at all.
He is quick. Admore White finally gets one to fall.
They're really high on White. He got good quickness. But again, as a freshman point guard, that's probably the toughest position to come into college basketball and play. I'd even venture to say it's the toughest spot to come into at the next level, the NBA level.
Sharon Wilkerson. He's the 6'4" freshman. The other, the 6'3" we've been talking about, is Steve Hart. And it's back to a 26-point Indiana advantage. The hold out top by Wilkerson.
Boy, how about the Big Ten this year? You're talking about banging heads within a conference. We saw 6 teams earlier already ranked in the top 25 in that conference. Northwestern will be a little better. They've got a new coach, Ricky Birdsong.
I saw Michigan last Wednesday night. You could see that there's the maturity factor now going for the Fab 5 -1. Howard and Rose playing a new role. He's not on the point quite as much. He's more of a wing player now, doing whatever the team needs. He's for the good of the team.
He's the X-Man. He's that X factor. You can throw him down in the post against smaller people. You can put him out on the floor. You can do an awful lot with him.
Foul inside after the rebound by Marcus Hughes. He'll go to the line to shoot 2. It'll be on Steve Hart.
Hughes and Gotch and White, not a bad little nucleus, and you consider you're going to have an opportunity to sign 5 players. And if you can get a couple of top-notch high school players, Notre Dame could be ready to start making some steps forward.
Now, is that the biggest adjustment for John McLeod, a former NBA coach? And we've had other NBA coaches now coming back to the college ranks, like Rick Pitino, a couple of others as well.
Stu
Jackson at Wisconsin. Is that the biggest adjustment, getting those victories in the living room, the recruiting process?
Oh, I think so. I would have to think so, because it's something you don't have to deal with at the professional level.
Steve Hart on the scoop. He's showing us a little bit of everything tonight. But that's got to be tough for John McLeod after 18 years in the NBA.
Yeah, that's why he's got a strong assistant coaching staff, Jimmy Black and Fran McCaffrey.
Oh, we talk about coaches, Clark, and John McLeod coming from the pros back to the college ranks. You don't see much movement in the Big Ten. There's a great deal of stability with the Big Ten coaches. We'll come back and pick up on that thought, because there have been a lot of coaches just like Bobby Knight, 20-plus seasons, and they're still happy to be in the Big Ten. 4:41 left. We'll come right back to Assembly Hall. Coach John McLeod is already experiencing frustration and trying to bring his program back.
My frustration is that we can't turn this thing around right now. I don't want to wait a year. I don't want to wait 2 years. I want us to be good right now. So from that standpoint, that's the pressure that I'm feeling, that I want this thing to turn around. I want us to be in the NCAA tournament immediately.
Sounds like that little kid in John McLeod is coming out. I want it, and I want it now. Can't blame him.
One of our more animated sound bites from a coach. I mean, he seems like he wanted to get out there and shoot a jump shot or post somebody up.
He was a winner in the NBA.
Big time.
He wants to put together a winning program in Notre Dame. He's got those 5 scholarships we talked about. It's going to be interesting to see what type of player he can get to South Bend.
Right.
You would think they could feed a little bit off the football program.
Yeah, you would hope that would be the case. Certainly it would. You would hope that would be of some benefit. And this is a program that has some tremendous basketball tradition. They've just hit an air pocket in their success, and I think he might be able to find some of the top players in the country excited about having a chance to be part of turning things around and getting Notre Dame back to where it once was. At least that would be a selling point with me. Maybe sell the idea of being able to get things moving in a more positive direction.
He could promise them plenty of minutes to take away by Hoover. 2 consecutive 2-point baskets for Hoover. He answers after a 3-point field goal for Pat Graham. And Coach Knight upset that his team made that mistake and they were beaten down the floor. Another time on the floor. 3:27 left in the contest. We'll come right back to Bloomington for the final 3:27. Indiana in control. Mark Kellogg, Pat Knight tried to make the pass, a pass that he would like to pull right back because his father went after him during the timeout. Maybe in just a second we'll have an opportunity to look at the reaction of Coach Knight. The block by Ross, the foul on Graham. He'll go to the line to shoot 2, but not exactly a remake of Robert Young's Father Knows Best, as Bob Knight welcomed his son over to the bench.
Yeah, that's pretty much nose to nose and arm to chest. But Coach Knight has never been one to really coach the scoreboard.
Right.
I mean, I've heard it said by many that he likes to coach against the game, and that's a tremendous challenge. And no matter what you're doing on the scoreboard, you still want to make good, solid plays. And that was just a poorly telegraphed pass by Pat Knight, and he heard about it.
12 points off the bench for Pat Graham, a young man who has broken a bone in his left foot 2 consecutive seasons. Couldn't happen a 3rd time in a row, could it? They need Graham. He's a good outside shooter.
Exactly. He's a nice guy to have coming off your bench because he can give you points in a hurry. And then he's got experience. So he's a solid player to have coming off your bench to anchor your reserve unit.
Jerron Wilkerson with the reach in. So Admore White with only 2 points so far in the contest will go to the line. It's a 27-point lead for the Indiana Hoosiers. They led it by 18 at the break. It was 10-0. A little less than 2 minutes gone by in the contest. If you joined us late, don't forget, coming up next on ESPN, Bob Carpenter and Digger Phelps will bring it your way from Oklahoma City. The Sooners taking on the Maryland Terrapins. Pat Knight looking over to his father after that basket, I think. Hart almost taking it away. Well, it's a family affair here in Bloomington, Indiana. The family is better than 17,000 strong, of course, because everybody here gets involved.
That kind of place.
Taken away from Hart through the legs of Ross. It'll still belong, though, to Notre Dame. Pat Knight coming through this time.
Whoa.
Did he say, let's play some golf tomorrow?
That had too many syllables, Joe. It was a little shorter than that.
Last touch by Pat Knight. That's got to be tough, though, coaching your own son.
I would think so. I mean, I've got 2 young boys, but they're far from the age of competing in athletics. But I would think that's probably one of the toughest things you've got to do.
Joe Ross with the basket.
You know, Notre Dame has continued to play. I mean, they've been out of it for a while, but they haven't packed it in by any stretch of the imagination. That's one of those plays you can't teach. Sweet little hanging layup by Steve Hart.
12 points now for Steve Hart. I could say a career high, but that's going to change a lot this year. This is only the 3rd game of his career. The travel inside. It goes back to Indiana. 1:38 left. 18 turnovers for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. 13 of those 18 coming in the first 20 minutes of play. Clark, we've been talking so much about Coach Knight. As Hart sends it up. When you face a Bob Knight team, most of the time I would think when you face any other team, you're thinking about the player you're going to match up with. But when you face a Bob Knight coach team, are you thinking about the head coach on the other team as well?
Not an awful lot. Obviously, his presence permeates any building he's in. But I think part of that, he's a big man. Another part of that is the tradition and success that Indiana has had. And then you always want to beat those that are recognized as the best. And as a guy who played at Ohio State, that was always my goal, to try to beat Indiana because they represented success.
Well, now Marcus Hughes goes to the line. Let's go back to the studio and join John Saunders. John?
Well, Joel, we just want to let you know that the second half of our triple header is coming up momentarily. Maryland against Oklahoma. Bob Carpenter and Digger Phelps will have the call on that game, so I'm sure Digger's watching yours as he's getting ready to tip off his. There's the opening tip. We'll get you out there as soon as possible.
Final minute of play here, John. That night not close. Jason Williams. Good look inside for Hughes. And it still belongs to Notre Dame. Has to finish that play. Even it is a blowout and only 35 seconds left.
He was a little soft with that one.
But Notre Dame will have to wait till next year. They have not beaten Indiana since '88. That came at home. They have not beaten the Hoosiers in this building since 1973. Next year, the matchup in South Bend. So now Indiana will be 10-1 on their home floor against Notre Dame. Kicked out of bounds by Ross. Final 15 seconds. A 21-point advantage for Indiana. Wilkerson blocked away. Some valuable playing time, though, tonight for some of the reserves like Graham, also the freshman Wilkerson and Hart. Foul after the ball went through the basket. Jason Williams. Now the basket will count no foul. They just wanted to wipe the floor at the opposite end.
John McLeod also had a chance to use Marcus Hughes and Matt Gotch.
That'll do it from Bloomington. It won't count. That final score, Indiana 101, Notre Dame 82. For Clark Kellogg and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Joel Myers. Thanks for joining us. Let's go to Oklahoma City now and join Bob Carpenter and Digger Phelps. Gentlemen.
Joe Smith has just hit one.